In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up for an animation in the Stencil game engine. And for our paint program, we are using Krita. I am on a Mac, and at this current time, Krita is a little buggy, but a new version actually just came out this morning, so that's very cool, and I look forward to using it. The first thing I need to do is I need 4 frames of this ship so that I can then animate it. So I'm going to come up to the Image menu, Resize Canvas. I'm going to change it from 64, I'm going to change it to 256 because that's 4 times. Then I'm going to anchor it over here on the left hand side so my content is in the red square and all the new canvas is in the white. I'll click on OK, and here's a glitch where everything disappears. You simply come over here and hide and unhide your layer, and then you're fine again. I do recommend saving quite a bit just in case. Okay, so you'll see I have 2 layers here. I have my ship layer and I have my fire layer. So now, before I duplicate, I need to have grid lines so that I can see where my first frame ends and my second frame begins, and my third frame and my fourth frame. So I'm going to come up to the Settings menu, and under Settings, I'll go to Dockers, Grids and Guides. Under Grids, I'll do Show Grid. And then for the X spacing and the Y spacing, I'll type in 32 pixels because that is half of what my original sized ship graphic was. And so now you can see these grid lines going down here. The darker ones are showing me where the frames are ending and beginning, and the lighter ones are the middle ones. I'm going to go ahead and click on the little X here to close the grid, and I'll bring back my white background here. That's probably much easier for everybody to see. Okay, so here are my grid lines. Right here, here's my half grid line, so that's the center. Okay, so now I'm going to duplicate. So I'm going to take my ship layer and I'll click on the duplicate icon, and it's called Copy of Ship. And all I need to do is grab the Move tool over here and left click and drag it over and get it right there about center. Good. And I'll duplicate again, drag it over, and there we go. And for the fourth one, okay, so I'm going to pause the video while I do the same action for the fire because it's the exact same thing. Then I'm going to rename my layers simply by double-clicking on a layer name, and I'll call this Ship 2. And then it'll be Ship 3 and Ship 4, and I'll do the same thing with fire, of course. And again, save along the way. So I'll be back in a moment. Okay, and we're back. Alright, so now comes the animation. So basically the way this is going to work is I need to make changes between the frames. So the big change that I'm going to have is going to be on the fire. So if this is frame 1 of the fire and this is frame 2 of the fire, I'm going to select my frame 2 layer for the fire. I'll grab my brush tool by pressing B. Make sure that you're on the correct layer, that's the most important thing, and make sure you have the right brush. Okay, so now what I can do is I can go ahead and tap and select whatever color I want. I'm using the Command key on a Mac to sample this first fire color, and I'm just changing some of the colors a little bit and adding in some extra pixels. I'll maybe press E to turn on erase mode. Just change it a little bit. Remember to turn off erase mode. Again, I'm going to hold down Command, and that's going to let me sample the colors. So now I'm sampling this middle yellow here, sample the orange, and you can put in little specks and little differences, and there you go. So, okay, so there's, and you can see the difference between frame 1 and frame 2. So now what you need to decide is how much do I want to change on frame 3 and then frame 4. You could make frame 4 the same as frame 1 so that it's a nice loopable cycle, but then you're going to have 2 frames that are exactly the same, and so I do recommend changing frame 4 a little tiny bit. Okay, so again, that's pretty much it. Just make all the changes that you want, and then Stencil will play frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, and then it will go back and it will and then we'll loop it. Alright, so I'm going to pause the video again, and I'll see you when I'm done with this. Okay, I'm back. Alright, so I have a whole bunch of layers over here I've saved. I've also noticed this little yellow pixel that's just kind of hanging around, so I'll take care of that in a little bit. Okay, so let's assume that you're really happy with it and you're ready to bring it on the stencil. You could combine these layers by right mouse clicking and choosing merge with layer below, and that would join all of your ships together. The advantage is that it's less layers to change and manipulate, but I would actually recommend keeping them separate, just in case after you come back in the stencil, or after you come back from stencil, that you then need to make changes. Okay, so the big thing I need to do now is I need to hide layer 1. I need to hide the background so that we see that it's transparent. You don't want the white background or any other colored background following you over to stencil. Okay, let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that yellow pixel, and then we'll export this. Alright, so I'm back, and yellow pixel is gone. Everything looks pretty good. We'll find out in stencil. Okay,